Greetings everyone. What if I told you that connecting and getting data from your patients is not as hard as it seems? At least not when you have the right tools. Whether it's a clinical trial or a research group, the focus should always be on analysis, not about the worry of data acquisition. So I wanted to show you how consumer-mediated exchange is handled with Darena Health. Before we jump in, the one thing you will need is a workspace. You can create one just here. I already have one, so I'm going to navigate to my workspace. Now, just under the Patient Connect tab, I'm going to go to the General, and what we're going to start with is the anonymous patient invite. I think this is a very good, just visceral example of how the process is going to work, and then we'll jump into something a bit more advanced after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL here. I will open a private session, and I will navigate to this page. So this would be something akin to the patient user journey. Now here I am able to select a couple of organizations that I am as a patient a part of to share my data from. For this example, I'll choose Epic. I'll click Connect. And we can see now here, we are the MyChart login. I'm going to log in as Fire Derek. Click the login button. And now we start getting to the consent screen. So we can see Maldorex Patients is the application that is asking for the access to the data, and Darena Solutions is the organization. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. These are the resources that are going to be shared from the Fire server from Epic. I'm going to allow access, and we will be redirected back. And it says data from Epic Sandbox has been shared successfully, which is great. So I'm just going to close that off. And now I'm going to go to the Received Data tab on the Patient Connect side. And we can see here, now we have a package from Derek Lynn, which is Fire Derek, who we logged in as earlier. We're going to go to Actions and Create and Import Patient. Just press that. And now we can see a patient is created within the workspace. If we go into that patient onto the All Data tab, which shows us the resources that we shared, we can see allergy, condition patient. You can browse these resources if you choose to, but there we have it. So this is the simple example of a patient sharing their information. As you can see, in just a couple of minutes, we're able to go from nothing to data acquisition from patients. Now, this is just using an anonymous URL. You would maybe send this out to 100 patients, let them do the sharing of the data, but we can go a little bit deeper. If you know the organization that you want to pull data from, you can pre-populate the patient, connect them with a data source, and then have a more guided user journey. So let me show you how we're going to achieve that with the customizability of Patient Connect. Before we get started, one other thing you will need is a system app. So I have a system app registered here, and then in the workspace, you just have to make sure that in the system apps, in the settings, you have that system app registered to the workspace. This will help us write data to the workspace. For example, pre-populating patient demographics and then making API requests to the server. So as you can see, I don't have any patients here. So we're going to go back to the Patient Connect General tab and we'll get started. First things first, what you need to do is you need to configure an external app. So this is the app that you will be using to grab patient information. For the example's sake, we're going to stick with Epic, and I have a public patient app registered in Epic that I'm going to be using. Important thing here is that you select the scopes that match the scopes on the Epic side. Don't select all of them. Don't click the select all button. I know it's very tempting. It won't work. Next, what you can do is you can configure a thank you page URL. So this would be the page that the user lands on after they finish the data sharing process. If you want your user journey to continue, that's where you would take them, and you specify the URL here. Once that's done, we'll go to the Connected Organizations tab, and we add an organization that we want to use with the app that we've just registered. So I have one here. So this is just the Epic Sandbox, and you can see, so here's the Fire endpoint for it, and you select which app to use it. I only have one, so there's no other choice. We're not going to change anything here. We're just going to dive straight in. I'm going to be using our Postman collection. You can grab it from the docs. That will be in the description down below. And all the API calls for Patient Connect you will find in the Patient Connect folder, just in here in the docs, and subsequently the access token request, very important, we'll have just here in the Get Connected section. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to make the call for the access token. So this is using the system app credentials that we mentioned earlier, and we're going to go ahead with our user journey. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to create a patient. I just have some sample information here. John Smith, very common guy, you meet him everywhere. And the important thing to note here is I am supplying a patient identifier. This is something I can recognize the patient by later on. So we're going to hit send. So now we can see we have a return for that patient. Now Darena Health is assigning an ID, but I don't want to remember this ID. I'm going to work with the identifier that I have set for the patient. And just to show you here, we can then query the Fire server by putting that identifier as a parameter, and we get a bundle back with that patient, John Smith. Fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an invite for data sharing for John Smith. We're going to send it here. I have scripts in the script sections for all of these calls. You can get them too by using the collection. They are just pre-populating the fields to make this easier. So we create the invite for John Smith. We get an invite code, which they're going to be using to connect him with our Epic Sandbox. Next call we have is the organizations one. So we hit send, and this will return us an array of the organizations that we have connected on the MelDirect side. I only have one, the Epic Sandbox, and that's what we're going to be using. Now that we have the patient and the invite code created, we can get started on the data acquisition part. So in this API call, I am supplying the code from the invite and the ID of the organization I want to collect data from. I'm going to hit send, and in the headers for the return, there is going to be a location, and this is going to be the redirect for the patient to use to facilitate data sharing. So I'm going to go just here, and I will create a new private session and navigate to the location from the return. We're once again going to land on my chart, and we're going to log in as Fire Derek. Now we can see Magnus Patient Public at the top is the application that is requesting access to the information. Previously, this was MelDirect's patients, so we have successfully configured a different application to be used for data extraction. This is where you would use your application so that the patients that you're connecting with have a familiar name that they see here. We're going to hit continue, and of course we're going to allow access to all the information as previously. And where you can see that the patient was actually redirected to Darena Health. So this is what I configured as my thank you page. We can also have a code and the organization ID. This could help you in your patient's journey, however you want to continue it. So going back to Darena Health, we can then go to receive data, and we now have a package from Derek Lynn. What we can do then is we can import this package, and going back to the patient side, John Smith, the original patient I created, just as a placeholder to receive information, we can then go to John Smith, we'll click all data, and we'll just inspect the patient resource, and what we will find here is that we will find Fire Derek in one of the identifiers, which means we've imported Derek's information into John Smith successfully. Now you can also use the API to manage any packages and import them as they are coming into the system. So just the bottom two requests in the collection you can have here. We'll click sign on this, and I have another package here. This is a package from Derek again, just for example's sake. And you can then manually import this package, all using the API without having to visit the website itself. Hopefully you can see that getting started is a simple process and one that you can customize to meet your requirements. With this in mind, you can focus on the data itself and not on the capture part. We're, of course, always constantly working on improving our offerings and are excited to hear from you what you would love to see. You can always sign up and get started with Sandbox data for free. The links for everything and the documentation is down below, and you can always message us on Discord if you have any questions at all. Thank you for watching.